Santa Monica, Caliph the bar half lit, his beer quarter full. Billy Bob Thornton smiled like a guy fencing stolen watches. He wore a long, dark coat, hat pulled low, and one sensed he could slip away with no one, not even the two ladies tucked in the corner, being the wiser. He sipped and narrowed his eyes at a passing face. Thornton can come across as a menacing whisper, a man who would guard your lunch money but steal your wife. You have to watch him, like you have for many years, to see what he might do next. This one-time boy from a shack in the woods who loves Faulkner, wears rings on his thumbs, frets about the world and has figured out that television, with its intricate characters and deep storylines, suits him. Actor Billy Bob Thornton poses for a portrait while promoting his upcoming Amazon series, Goliath, at the London Hotel in Los Angeles. Casey Curry, Associated Press. His series Goliath, for which he won a Golden Globe, starts its second season on Amazon Friday. The existential tale, created by David E. Kelly and Jonathan Shapiro, dives into the righteous, flawed, intensive, reticent soul of Billy McBride, a boozed-up, motel-living lawyer whose integrity is commensurate with his understanding of evil. Rumpled and undeterred, he believes in justice but is not sure about the law. McBride gets mixed up with a dirty cop, a woman who might be conning him, a psychopathic developer and a drug lord with an amputation fetish. I don't play the part any different from what I am. I'm a guy who doesn't think life is fair, said Thornton, gazing from the back booth at Shay J, a Santa Monica bar that over the decades has seen its share of transgressions. The story goes to a place that's really crazy. The whole thing started out as a version of Paul Newman in The Verdict, but I see it as that combined with Jimmy Stewart in Vertigo, or Rear Window. This season is a little more Hitchcockian. Thornton is like a skip in a record, a crack between a lyric. His characters, including the mentally slow handyman in Sling Blade, the tormented prison guard in Monsters Ball, the self-loathing thief in Bad Santa, are minuscule, off-key notes in need of soothing. Some, such as Billy McBride and Coach Gary Gaines in Friday Night Lights, are wells of decency and resolve. They know the line between honor and shame. But Thornton, as he did with sedate hitman Lorne Melvo in the FX series, Fargo, is sinister like he was born to it. Article continued below. They always want you to scream. Casting directors, producers, directors, audiences all want you to scream, especially when you're playing a bad guy, he said. But the fact of the matter is they must not have known that many bad guys, because real bad guys don't scream. You never hear them coming. Thornton is the most subtle actor I've ever worked with, said Goliath showrunner Lawrence Trilling. He seems to be doing nothing while at the same time giving you everything emotionally. The joke that Billy always says when directors come in try and tell him to be more emotional. He says, "Hey, I have the same look in my face whether I'm eating a ham sandwich or killing my mother." He understands it's all about context. Thornton sat with his back to a mirror in Shay J. Twinkly lights surrounded him, along with models of tall ships and pictures of Sinatra and Monroe, a mounted yellow tuna that was caught by Jen. Georges. Patton hung above the cash register. The bar, replicated as a set for Goliath, is dense with folklore and mischief, a place where movie stars, scriptwriters and politicians have whiled away dark hours. Owner Michael Anderson, who looked like he just docked a boat, roamed past a table of men who were drinking wine and squinting toward a square of light at the door. The actor let it unfold, as if in a scene that need not be hurried. Nina Arianda, who plays McBride's whirlwind sidekick Patty Solis Papagian, said Thornton has an innate ability to stay in the moment. You melt into the situation. You get over yourself and you focus on the scene and the part. That can only come from somebody being that present and that full. It's second nature with Billy. It's almost involuntary. It's a God-given gift. It makes you in it with him right away. Thornton was raised in the middle of the woods in Arkansas, in a house that had no electricity or plumbing, the kind of place where people who don't have money live. The son of a psychic and Korean War vet who became a teacher, Thornton, whose younger brother died in 1988, said, "I'm severely dyslexic and have obsessive-compulsive disorders and a lot of other things. Real bad anxiety, and I have a paranoia, a fear of death, a fear of sickness, the same things for all the people I love. I've had it since I was 11 or 12. I always had intensity. It just lived in there." He gravitated toward movies and books. "My wonder about the rest of the world drove me," he said. "All we had was imagination." Article continued. Below, he was a standout baseball player and later became a singer-songwriter. His country rock rockabilly band, the Boxmasters, will play in July at the Mint in Los Angeles. He's been married 6 times, including to Angelina Jolie, whose blood he wore in a locket around his neck in a relationship that now seems a curious artifact from a Twilight Zone, and his current wife, Connie England, a puppeteer and special effects technician. At 62, he carries a sharp notion of what was and what's been lost. "When I was a kid, the whole idea behind going to see a movie or a band or reading a book was that you went into it wide-eyed and innocent, wanting to like it," he said. "But somehow a screw got turned over the years and it tightened everything up to the point where it's exactly the opposite. People go to these things now wanting to hate it. That's the sad part of it. People now go to a concert with their arms folded, going, okay, let's see if Bob Dylan was as good as he was when I saw him in '89. The venom and meanness on social media bother him. It's become a world," he said, "where people want to take someone down, and the audience, plugged in and insatiable on Instagram and Twitter, demands to be the star. It happened when the business people started relying on the audience to make the right formula for toothpaste and cheese puffs," he said. "But art is creation, someone's vision. If the audience is allowed to dictate art," he added, "then you're just carpenter building a house to someone's specs." The art of subtraction is essential to his skill as a writer and actor. In the first season of Goliath, Trilling asked Thornton to show a more battered look while McBride winced into the sun with a hangover. "I said, I'd love to see that. You're a little more hungover," said Trilling. And Billy's like, "I am hungover. This is what it looks like." He looks at scripts and rather than want to add lines for himself, he'll want to cut lines. He'll say, "I don't need to say this. Let me just show it." After moving to Los Angeles to act, write and join a band, Thornton took a job as a waiter at a Christmas party, where he met director Billy Wilder. They talked and Wilder urged him to get into screenwriting. He took the advice and won an Academy Award for Adapted Screenplay for Sling Blade in 1997. He has a novelist's eye, saying of Tom Waits, whose songs are littered with Thornton-like characters, "If Oliver Twist was a real story and Tom Waits was Fagin, I would have been swiping people's wallets for him. He can be just as perceptive when deciphering himself." He hasn't had a screenplay turned into a movie for years, and his forays into directing, including All the Pretty Horses 2000, adapted from the Cormac McCarthy novel and subject to drastic cutting by Sony and Harvey Weinstein. He did not want to talk about the disgraced producer, have been uneven. Jane Mansfield's car, 2012, dropped quickly out of sight. Perhaps it's earned wisdom or a shade of bitterness, but Thornton, who has twice read the Bible from cover to cover, has figured out his place, at least for now, in the constellation. "I don't think the audience cares about what I have to say anymore. I think they still care about me as an actor," said Thornton, mentioning his early influences of Erskine Caldwell and Tennessee Williams. "I think I'm obsolete as a writer and director. I think I would probably come across as the old guy saying the Beatles are better than the music now. Personal stories seem to be less important right now. Issue stories are important. My issues are things you can't write about anyway. A, it gets you in trouble, and B, nobody's going to listen." He misses the independent film renaissance that 2 decades ago produced Sling Blade. He doubted such a movie would get made today, or if it did, it'd get some crummy little distributor and no one would ever see it. But Fargo, and now Goliath have given him layered stories and idiosyncratic characters, the kind he found years ago in Gothic Southern novels in a time before Hollywood wanted to make $1 billion on a movie. I think right now, Amazon and these places have taken the place of those movies that are dead. When the independent film boom happened, people wanted that. And I think now, people are turning to shows like Goliath and all these others. TV is bringing back the no-holds-barred stories. That's where that 1/8 creativity 3/8 lives. If I did go back to writing and directing, it would be in that area. He's reminiscent of a soul out of Faulkner or Flannery O'Connor, tormented, wise, funny, a slanted way of seeing things. It was pushing 4 p.m. The bar was almost empty. He stayed a little longer, pondering the Kennedy assassination and how an actor must make language fit him. The sky over the ocean was gray, it felt like rain, but he only lived up the road a bit. He stood, a wisp of a man in a big coat, and left his beer on the table.